Okay, Sean, we're talking about your recent visit to the Mother Earth News Fair.
Yes, once again, Chris and I attended the annual Mother Earth News Fair in Seven Springs, Pennsylvania. It's held every year at the ski resort there, and it's put on by the publisher of the Mother Earth News magazine. And as usual, Chris and I tried to make as little as an impact on the environment as we could for the weekend. We camped out in a local campground instead of paying a high dollar for a hotel room with air conditioning and all the comforts of home. As usual, well, Mother Earth News is about sustainability. Everything is geared to sustainability and living off the land. There was many workshops that we attended. One was on mushrooms. Thad Collier, who was a top mycologist in the country, is from Greenville, South Carolina. He has a big operation down there that's geared just about mushrooms. He studies them for using for like oil slick remediation, for fertilizer, along with the eating and stuff like that. One of the things he talked about that, of course, I knew about, and Chris did also, was topsoil and making new topsoil. It takes about 150 years for Mother Nature to make 1 inch of topsoil. Since the white man has come to North America, they have done away with 16 feet of topsoil on average.
Jeez.
Most of this topsoil's ended up in places like the Mississippi Delta and stuff like that. One of the things he talked about in bringing back some of the topsoil is using mushroom spores for composting, using recycled cardboard, compost, and then mushroom spores.
Now, how exactly is that done?
Well, you put a layer of cardboard down, then you bring your compost in, and then you sprinkle the mushroom spores. Now, one of the things I do when I'm collecting mushrooms, whether they're good or bad or whatever, I don't think, well, not bad's a bad word to use for mushrooms, you know, they all have a purpose. And, even though they may be poisonous, they always have a good purpose. Trees use them to communicate. They're also the recycler of the forest. So what we do is I'll take the mushroom spores on pieces of paper and put them in the compost. And a lot of times the spores are actually the seeds of the mushroom plant. And the mycelium will start to spread inside the compost and stuff. And that's what he's basically saying to do, and take that and load that on top of your compost and load that on top of the cardboard. And then, you know, if you do it now in the springtime, wherever you put this down, it'll be ready for planting. What we're starting to look at is getting away from things like rototilling and cultivators and things like that actually break up the soil. This actually accelerates the loss of topsoil, when, you know, just from erosion. And now, and he has a number of very good books out about mushrooms, and the uses, and he has a lot of good recipes and stuff like that. One of these days, I'm going to get down to Greenville and visit his place down there and see what he has down there.
When you do that, pardon me. When you do that, let's do a video on that too, because it sounds fascinating. Just his work alone.
It's very fascinating. Another thing, we belong to the Ohio Mushroom Society and the Western Pennsylvania Mushroom Society, and we do forays with them all through the summer and spring and the fall. And for $20 a year, you can become a member, and you can go to these forays. Of course, anything, your room and board and stuff like that is extra. and we usually try to find some place to camp when we go. But some of the forays are just for like an afternoon and stuff, and you know, you can drive there, do the foray and drive home.
Yeah.
You know, Cleveland area, Akron area, places like that. They're not far away. Same thing in Pennsylvania, McConnell's Mill State Park, Cook's Forest, Pittsburgh. Some of the parks down there, they're very good. Another vendor that we saw was of course, they call him Uncle Mud, and he does construction with mud. You know,
Oh yeah.
clay. You know.
He's the guy that did the mud house, right?
Yeah, he did a mud house. He's done some, and he also does some pizza cookers, dome cookers and stuff that he can put together in a couple hours, and you know, and the next day be able to cook with them. You know, bake bread.
Yeah.
You know, in your backyard. You know, just like
That's fascinating.
and it's very fascinating using wood and stuff like that. And he's from up just close to Chardon, Ohio.
Oh, so he's local.
Yes, he's local. He's done a lot of home repairs and stuff like that in the Cleveland area, you know, and reclaiming some of the other properties that aren't being utilized.
So what was he up to this year?
He was doing the same thing, just giving demonstrations on how to use it. And he, of course, every year he builds a couple ovens and uses them.
Now the ovens, I didn't I didn't know about.
Yeah, it's a
That's
beehive
just
oven.
fascinating. And with like an opening in the top.
There's usually an opening somewhere, you know, in the side or the top, and then an opening in the front to put your pizza and stuff in, or your bread. Now, we also, after we left him, we had a professor of environmental policy and management program at the University of Denver, Dr. Dan Shiras. I think that's how you pronounce it. And he gave demonstration on the use of solar energy and the uses of different things you can use in your house to keep it cool in the summer, warmer in the winter. Some of it you need you know, to run a little electricity. Some you don't. He's a big proponent of solar energy, both passive and active. Passive is when you don't store the energy, you just use it as you make it, and active is you store it in batteries. One of the things that I'm always talking about and harping about, and people think that I'm against solar energy and wind energy and things like that, is because I talk about a cost benefit analysis. Always do a life cycle cost analysis of anything you do, especially big ticket items. He had broken down the cost of the solar starting at 3 cents a kilowatt and on up. 3 cents a kilowatt starts with the passive system. More expensive system, of course, is when you have to go active in using batteries and some kind of complicated switching devices, things like that, which costs more. Now, the big problem that I find that people say, well, it'll pay for itself in 5 years. Well, that may be true, but you still have to maintain the system.
Yes.
And either you do it or you pay somebody to do it. Batteries are the biggest cost in an active system. At some point, whether, you know, the batteries are better now, so say in 10 years you're still going to have to replace batteries. Maybe sooner, maybe a little later, but that's a big ticket item.
Yeah.
Now, thing that has come about with the solar panels, even 20 years old, they find out they still have 70 to 80% efficiency. But the efficiency did go down, and it will go down as the sun hits them.
Yes.
One thing you need to do is to go up, and they have to be cleaned, they have to be polished every so often, just to keep the efficiency and keep them from deteriorating too much.
Okay, in our last 10 seconds here, final points.
My final point is to look at sustainability. Anybody wants to know about the Mother Earth News Fair next year. We've always been trying to get people to go down there and just see what it's about. Get a hold of Chris or I, and we'll tell you all about it and tell you how to get there.
Okay, fantastic. I will include your email address in the comment section.
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.